Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Vasyl Lomachenko, he breaks his silence and he talks about facing Devin Haney. Loma, he pretty much confirmed and corroborated with Bob Arum that the fight is definitely happening next. He basically said that the only thing that they're trying to find out now is the location of where the fight will take place. So Loma, he had a lot to say about Devin Haney, and all of it was positive, despite the fact that Elie Seckbach was desperately trying to get Lomachenko to discredit Devin Haney as much as he could. Elie tried to use every single racist talking point that you see race fans use when they're talking about Devin Haney. And understand, when I say racist talking points, I'm talking about saying things in an interview that you know is misinformation, but you just say it to justify your dislike for an individual or for a particular race. See, it's one thing to do that when you remain anonymous, hiding in the comment section, posting all type of racist stuff or posting all type of racist talking points. But when you call yourself a reporter, you're held at a much higher standard. So as Lomachenko is doing this interview talking about his potential fight with Devin Haney, throughout the entire interview, Lomachenko, he becomes a major distraction in the interview because the whole time Elie is trying to inject himself in the interview and he's trying to throw as much mud against the wall, saying negative things about Devin Haney, hoping that something will stick, hoping that Lomachenko will co-sign some of the things that Elie was saying. Well, Elie was in for a surprise because the harder Elie tried to discredit Devin Haney, the more Lomachenko would basically check him and praise Devin Haney. I mean, it was almost as if Loma was saying to Elie, man, have you ever even seen Devin Haney fight before? Because you're talking as if he's a complete nobody. Let me just give you guys a clip to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, before I play the clip, I want to set it up for you guys. I want you to pay attention to how the interview starts. The first thing Elie says to Lomachenko is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world and one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. But throughout the entire interview, he never says that Devin Haney is a pound for pound fighter. Check out this clip.
One of the best, maybe one of the best fighters in history, Vasyl Lomachenko. First of all, how are you feeling today, champ?
Good, thank you. Good.
So the whole world can't wait to see you fight Devin Haney. Any updates for us when the fight will be at?
So I'm prepared for May. Where is it gonna be? I don't know yet. But I prepared for this fight. You know, it's my second chance, and I prepare very hard. I'm very serious.
Okay, so once again, that was Lomachenko confirming that, the fight is pretty much all but done. They're trying to figure out the location right now. Later on in the interview, Elie, he asked Lomachenko, what do you think about Devin Haney? And before Lomachenko can answer the question, Elie is already giving his thoughts on Devin Haney.
So what do you think about Haney? Everyone knows he has a jab. We know he doesn't have the most power, but he's talented. Obviously, he's a good fighter. He won all the belts.
So what do you think about Devin Haney? Everyone knows he has a jab. He doesn't have that much power, but he's a good fighter because he won all the belts. Now notice, as biased as ESPN is, even they call Devin Haney pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. Elie doesn't even acknowledge Devin Haney as one of the best fighters in the world. But at the beginning of the interview, he says this is a fight that everyone wants to see. But let's go back to the jab talking point, because we know this is a talking point that racist people use all the time. All he has is a jab. He has nothing else but a jab. Now, this is the misinformation that I'm talking about, because Devin Haney's best weapon in the Kambosos rematch wasn't his jab. His best weapon was the right hand. In the first fight, his best weapon was the jab. In the rematch, his best weapon was the right hand. And if Elie was really trying to break down these fights, then Elie would have thought about the fact that when Devin Haney fought against Jojo Diaz, he was fighting a southpaw just like Lomachenko. And what's the best weapon against a southpaw? It's the lead right hand. That was Devin Haney's best weapon in the Jojo Diaz fight. If you listen to the ESPN commentary, when Devin Haney was fighting against Kambosos in the rematch, all you heard them talking about was Devin Haney's right hand. But race fans, they don't care about what's actually true. They know that Devin was landing right hands all day, but they know that this is what other race fans want to hear. It doesn't matter if it's true, fans just want to hear it. the race fans at least. So Ellie, he regurgitates it. It's no different than a race fan watching a Floyd Mayweather fight. Watching Floyd Mayweather stand right in front of his opponent, and then as he's watching it, still telling people all he does is run. You know, it's funny because I remember we were having some fight party a while ago when I was out there in Las Vegas, and there was someone at my house that I didn't know, and we started talking boxing, started talking about Mayweather, and he was talking about how all Mayweather does is run. So at this time I had cable and I had all the fights saved on my DVR. So as soon as he said that, we were at the perfect spot. I immediately played a Mayweather fight. I think I played the Mayweather versus Canelo Alvarez fight. And I'm playing the fight. And I said, show me the running. He looked at me with this embarrassing grin. And you know what he said to me? He said, I just don't like him, man. I just don't like him. And I said, okay, so why don't you just say that? You could have saved us a lot of time if you would have just came out and said, I just don't like him. I don't care how good he is. But the reason why they don't say that is because they feel guilty, because they know that they come off as being a racist, because the only fighters that they most likely don't like are black fighters. So they use a talking point that they know is not true because it helps to alleviate the guilt. And this is exactly what Ellie was doing when he was talking to Loma about Devin Haney. Let me share another true story with you guys. I remember, once again, out in Las Vegas, right after Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao. I was at some grocery store and ended up getting into a conversation with a random person at the grocery store, right? And this guy, he started to use the typical race fan talking points. Oh, the fight was boring. I didn't like it, right? Now, we went back and forth. I continued to expose him and force him to contradict what he had just said a moment ago. And I ended up forcing him to contradict himself so many times. Eventually, after a good, 5-minute conversation, he finally admitted he never even watched the fight. He said friends had just told him the fight was boring. So once again, that meant he didn't care if it was true or not. He liked how it sounded to even say it. It was therapeutic for him to say this. This is the way he dealt with the man that he couldn't stand winning this fight against Manny Pacquiao. And I ask you guys, just like I asked him, when is it ever exciting or entertaining to watch the guy that you hate beat the person that you were rooting for? The only way they're going to find that kind of fight entertaining is if the right guy wins, which would be their guy. So after Ellie asked this question and once again gives his own thoughts on Devin Haney, this is how Lomachenko responds to Ellie.
So what do you think about Haney? Everyone knows he has a jab. We know he doesn't have the most power, but he's talented. Obviously, he's a good fighter. He won all the belts.
Look, he's a top fighter. Now he's one of the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world in our weight classes, and it will be very great matchup.
Now you heard Lomachenko say right there that Devin Haney is a pound-for-pound fighter. While Ellie never called him a pound-for-pound fighter, just said he's a good fighter. We know he has a jab, but he doesn't really have power. So after that, Ellie then implies that only Lomachenko wanted this fight, not Devin Haney. For those of you guys who don't know, Devin Haney wanted this fight in March. He didn't want to push the fight all the way out till May. Lomachenko wanted the fight in May. But listen to Ellie imply that only Lomachenko wanted this fight, and not Devin Haney.
First he said he wanted to fight early March. Then he said he doesn't want to fight. He wants to fight Vegas, not New York. Fans want to see the fight, Loma. You want to fight. All these stuff.
Look, I never thinking about these details. Never. I know, you always knows about your future bout from your promoter. So my promoter said me before, you take a second chance. We can organize this fight. Be ready. So now I know it, and for me, I don't need nothing. I don't need talking. I don't need sell myself. I know my dream in the future. My dream, it's come. I need just train, prepare, and prepare. That's it.
So once again, Ellie, he's trying to throw as much stuff on the wall, hoping that something sticks. He was hoping that Lomachenko once again would co-sign what he said. You heard Lomachenko say, I'm not going to sit over here and down-talk Devin Haney, because he sensed that that's exactly what Ellie was trying to get him to do. But Loma, he understood even if he wanted to talk smack about Devin Haney, he wouldn't be able to talk smack when it comes to the actual facts. Because Loma acknowledges he knew that Devin wanted this fight a lot earlier than May. And Lomachenko, he knows that Devin Haney really wanted this fight a lot. Because the only reason Devin Haney is still at 135 is to make the Lomachenko fight. Devin could have easily moved up to 140. He didn't have to wait around. He only stayed at 135 to fight Lomachenko. Why? Because Devin is aware that old media and Ellie Setback, they believe that Lomachenko, as Ellie said it, is one of the greatest fighters of all time, one of the greatest fighters in the sport of boxing, and pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world. So if you constantly want to prove to the world that you're not just one of the best fighters in the world, but the best fighter in the world, it makes all the sense in the world to fight another fighter that old media is calling one of the best fighters in the world, right? Because we know if Devin Haney would have just moved straight up to 140, his next opponent would not be someone that old media calls one of the greatest fighters of all time or one of the best fighters in the world. Now we're going to get into the final clip that I'm going to play of this interview. This clip right here is going to explain why Ellie feels so comfortable to say the things that he says. He quotes what Gervonta Tank Davis said about Devin Haney. Let me play the clip and I'm going to explain it to you.
I asked Gervonta Davis this week, who wins? Loma, Haney. His whole team said that you win. And then Tank told me Devin calls out everybody but never fights them. That's what he said. I didn't say it. I'm just telling you.
Look, you know, boxing, it's we never know what happened in the fight. But it will be a very, very interesting fight, and I think it will be very hard for both.
Absolutely.
What do you mean absolutely? You just basically said that Devin has nothing but a jab and he doesn't have power. So why are you now agreeing that it's going to be a hard fight? It's because Loma threw Ellie a curveball. He wasn't expecting Loma to be that honest. If someone has pretty much no power and all they have is a jab, no right hand, no hooks, no uppercuts, no body shots, just a jab, that shouldn't be a hard fight at all, according to that logic. Anyway, moving on. Now there's two things I want to talk about. What Lomachenko just said and what Ellie said to Lomachenko. Let's start with Loma. Loma is being extremely honest when it comes to what he thinks about Devin Haney and his talents, how dangerous of an opponent he feels Devin Haney is. He said, this will be a hard fight for both of us. And I agree with Loma, but I have to say, a lot of times I've heard fighters say, this is going to be a difficult fight. This is going to be a tough fight. The majority of times a fighter says something like that, he ends up losing that fight. For example, I remember Freddie Roach. As soon as the Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight was announced, the first interview that Roach did, he wasted no time to say, this is going to be a very difficult fight to win. He said, Floyd Mayweather, he does not make that many mistakes. This is what he said. Manny Pacquiao would later say after the Mayweather fight, he had a dream months before the fight he was going to lose, as if he's saying it was destined to happen. While Mayweather's team, Floyd Mayweather Sr., constantly talked about how they are going to dominate him leading up to the fight. That's how they really felt, and that's how the fight played out. So it's interesting to hear Lomachenko say that this is going to be a hard fight. And of course, he's going to say it's going to be a hard fight for both of us because he knows how bad it would sound if he were to just come out and say, this is going to be a hard fight for me to win. I mean, it's a little bit different when the trainer says it's going to be a difficult fight as opposed to the actual fighter saying it. And now let me close out by talking about what Ellie Setback said when he was quoting what Gervonta said about Devin Haney. First of all, we already know when it comes to Devin Haney and Gervonta Tank Davis, they're arch rivals. They're going to always go back and forth talking bad about each other. But what Ellie is doing, it's the oldest trick in the book. See, racist people, they feel as long as I can find a black person who feels the exact same way or says the exact same things that I would say about that other black fighter, then that justifies me saying it. No matter what it is the black person is saying. I'll give you guys a perfect example. So Malik Scott came out, Deontay Wilder's trainer. Malik Scott, he came out and he dissed Black Lives Matter. He said all lives matter. And he just basically started using all the talking points that racist people use when they say all lives matter. Even though the people that always say all lives matter, they have never supported any black people, or I should say any unarmed black person that was murdered by the police, even when the police officer pled guilty, admitting guilt. You have never heard a non-black person say all lives matter and then say justice for George Floyd or justice for Tamir Rice or any of the thousands of unarmed black people that were killed by the police. You never hear them say justice for this person. Why? Because all lives matter. So despite the fact that Malik Scott fighter Deontay Wilder is a huge supporter of Black Lives Matter and Gervonta Tank Davis, despite all of that, because Ellie heard what Malik Scott said, Ellie, he started to completely talk about how black people, they should appreciate the fact that they even are in this country. He went on this long anti-Black Lives Matter rant when he was talking to Malik Scott in an interview he did. I have the video up. There were actually videos that Ellie had put up way before he did that interview with Malik Scott, years before, where he was dissing Black Lives Matter. In fact, Ellie, he had made a diss video towards T.I. because T.I. was supporting Black Lives Matter. But once again, my point is, these type of people, they feel, as long as I can find a black person who feels the same way I feel about black people, then all I have to do is say, okay, well, look, this black guy said it, so it can't be racist what I said, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who co-signs some racist remark that you make. There's always going to be a black person that co-signs some racist remark. There's always going to be a person of any race that's going to co-sign something that was said about their race. And if someone who wasn't Jewish said something that was extremely offensive to Jews, but then that same person, he showed you a video of another Jewish person saying the same thing, do you really think the Jewish people are going to feel, okay, well, it's not offensive anymore now since you showed us a Jewish person saying the same thing? It don't work like that. I'm telling you guys right now, the reason why old media members like Ellie Setback, Chris Mannix, Max Kellerman, the reason why they're so comfortable with saying some of the most offensive stuff towards black fighters or black people in general is because they know that they usually fly under the radar. And a lot of black fighters don't check them. A lot of these black fighters, they're so focused on talking about their arch rivals, who they're planning on fighting next. A lot of times they don't even pay attention to the racial agenda that old media is pushing. And you know what happens when they don't pay attention? That message spreads like wildfire. And next thing you know, your arch rival is using the same talking points that he got from those racist fans and using it against you. That's where Gervonta got that no power comment from. He got it from these type of fans. You guys have to remember, Leo Santa Cruz didn't have power. And yet Gervonta never said Leo Santa Cruz has no power. And Ellie Setback definitely never said that Leo Santa Cruz has no power. Speaking of no power, let's just say all of that were true when it comes to Devin Haney. He only has a jab, or he's known, as Ellie put it, he's known for his jab. And he doesn't have any power. If you are dominating all of your opponents and you have the majority of fighters avoiding you, and the only weapon you have is a jab and you have no power, what does that say about how good Devin Haney is if that is the case? I mean, just think about it for a second. Saying that all Devin Haney has is a jab is basically like saying Devin Haney beats opponents with one hand tied behind his back because all he's using is the jab. That says a lot about what type of fighter and how good Devin Haney is. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, the fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to lodekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.
One of the most anticipated dog breedings has finally been confirmed. The pups from this pairing of Zeta and DMX will be born very soon. We are now accepting deposits. Our pups will come with ears cropped and a 2-year health guarantee. Get ahead of the pack on purchasing a puppy by contacting NWA Cane Corsos on Instagram at NWA Cane Corsos. Call or text 479-326-1603 with any questions. A guard dog is your first line of defense. These will be the right pups for the job.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.